Excited to have the opportunity to chat with you today.
Great.
Tell me a little bit about what led you to become an interior design professional.
Well, it beats welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? I basically realized pretty early on that I'm unhireable, and so I had to carve out a profession that I could enjoy and be a full-time mom, and also have something that I loved that was aesthetic and beautiful and creative. And that's how I kind of stumbled onto it.
What was your first big break?
Oh, that's an interesting question because I never really think about that. My first big break was probably that I had sold a business and had the opportunity to go shopping. And my sort of object of desire were things for architectural elements for my house. I was building a house at the time. And so I went to Europe. And I always think that's my first big break because I realized that there was a whole world of beautiful things out there, and that we just had to go looking for them. I was sort of like a little piggy snorting for truffles in the countryside of France, and so I think that's when I realized that just getting out of where I was and into a new environment that was challenging and interesting, and that was sort of what led me to this industry. Just that wanting to find treasures and put them into architecture, into homes and into houses and into rooms.
Describe your clientele.
My typical clientele is definitely upper tier for my design business, but I'm passionate about everyone having beautiful rooms. So just one tier of my business is that my private bespoke, where people hire me in a conventional interior design way or interior design process, that caters to 0.2% of the population, but that's the work that gets editorialized. Those are the projects where you can put those they end up on the pages of a random magazine or House Beautiful or Architectural Digest. And then so that's a very important part of the business, but I'm very passionate about the mid-tier of designer that I want to get product, and then the end user. I want everybody to have beautiful rooms. So I'm constantly, as a business person, looking for ways to reach all different layers of the market.
Yes. Tell me about a project that you worked on that stands out most in your memory.
Oh my gosh, there's been so many because they're like your children.
Sure.
You fall in love with every single one of them, and then of course you have to leave and they stay in someone else's house. So it's kind of a little odd, but
do
no.
You get visitation rights.
I do get visitation rights. I do. I always want to do a good job for my clients, so they invite me back because it would be too unimaginable to not get to visit some of these places. But I think that probably. I had a wonderful experience working on an original George Washington Smith in Bel Air, California. It was really rich in history, and it was just a beautiful nostalgic project. And so that was particularly challenging, but also glorious to see the end result of that. But I think there are all different layers. One of my favorite things I did was a project, a beach house project in Malibu, where the client had said, we have this rusty old beach house and we're going to tear it down and build a big modern structure, but until we do, can you just make it nice enough that we want to go out for 1 month out of the summer and surf? And so I was mortified that they were going to tear down this house because it was one of the original cottages in Malibu. So we just made it amazing. We completely restored it. It had all these vines and things growing over the house. It was a little shingle cottage. And by the time that we finished with it, through the landscape, all the way through the house, the renovation of the house and all of the furnishings, by the time we finished it, the clients came back and looked at the house and were like, oh my God, we would never tear down this house. So I guess that was one of the most rewarding ones because I actually feel like maybe we saved the house.
So it's still standing?
Yeah, it's still standing.
Oh,
and they wanted a modern beach house at some point, but that beach house was sold as one of the original beach cottages. So it changed hands since then, but the point was really that may not have survived had it not been sort of loved back to its original splendor.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah,
So
good story.
what gives you the inspiration to create? A client calls you, says, come to my home. What from there?
It's really a sort of a process by braille in a lot of ways. It's you have to really sort of, meet the client, spend some time, and sort of get a sense of who they are and what they need in the interior. And I love that process. It's very intimate. I think that's why I love my profession, is that it's when you're creating a home for someone, you're in the inner sanctum of a family, and I think it's an awesome responsibility, because it's more than just pretty rooms. It's about setting people up for success in their lives, by mapping, by just the way you use rooms. Some of the old paradigms don't really work in the way we live and coexist as families now. So formal dining rooms we don't use. We want to be in that kitchen, so our kitchens should be more beautiful spaces, not just utilitarian spaces, because no matter how nice the house is, everybody's going to stay there. So I'm an advocate of knocking down walls and making sort of great room kitchens that people can coexist in, that you can linger after dinner and not feel like you're hanging out in the kitchen. So I'm a big fan of paneled, beautiful, glossy kitchens with old mirrored walls, and bring out the silver and the china and just live with all of it. I don't like the idea that you have wedding china and you stick it in a little felt bag and it goes under the. I know. Have you done that?
Yes.
And then how often do you pull that out?
Not very.
Never. So if you look in my cupboards in my kitchen, my china's stacked up and I eat on it every day, and I bring people in, and it's it's part of the whole sort of lifestyle piece of how I like to live. So I encourage that. So I think that designers can lead people to that, because it's so easy to sort of get into the mundane and get into your busy life. And if you put beauty around you and you put smart design around you, it will navigate you to all the things that you need.
Any design ideas or tips that work for modern busy families in terms of functionality?
Definitely. I mean, I think that with our children now, we have to be really careful, because they're sort of migrating into their rooms, because they're plugged into a lot of different devices. And so they're very busy maintaining their 800 friends on Facebook. But meanwhile, they're not going down to the, to the corner store or dime store with their, friends, and really getting the nuances of language and personalities and friendship and all those things. So a big important thing for me is that I'm bringing kids back to the center of the house. So I try to create homework centers and creative spaces near the kitchen, near the center of the house, so that we can govern what they're doing, but at the same time we keep them interactive in the family unit. I think it's super important. I think we can get far enough down that path that we don't have a roadmap back. So I'm seeing that as a trend, and I'm trying to pull the family back to the center of the house. And then also I've realized, I always joke and say I'm part anthropologist, because I've been doing this long enough that I'm around families and I see sort of how design does, either makes their family life better or not. And I've noticed that over time, the people who shared, the husbands and wives who shared some kind of, bathroom or closet space that interacted with each other early in the morning or at the end of the night, had longer marriages or are still together.
Is there a signature Windsor Smith look?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's right here at Century Furniture. But no, I think I have an optimistic elegance about what I do. I'm definitely a traditionalist, so all of my designs, both in the interiors that I create and also in the furniture that I design, it has an elegance to it that's very traditional. But I'm definitely, not wanting to get left behind on the new. I'm doing everything with a new spin, cleaner finishes. This table, for example, was a piece inspired by a piece that was a wood piece, and that the vertical rods were not in lucite, and so that was kind of a way to kind of mix these glossy, fun new materials, but in an old school kind of oval little tea table. And so I like mixing those concepts. I like the idea of a turnabout sofa or something like this, a tete-a-tete that you'd find sort of in an old hotel lobby, the Hotel du Cap or something. And so I like the idea of taking these kind of old elements, but then covering them in linens that make them more casual and approachable for today's, person.
Have you worked with the Southwest influenced design scheme that we often see here in Arizona?
I haven't a lot, but through Room in a Box, we had a famous baseball player, Evan Longoria. So he used Room in a Box. He and his lovely girl, Jamie Edmondson, they used room in a box to create a baby room for their baby that was coming. And so it was interesting to see, and then that expanded into them using room in a box to do the entire house. But it's here in Scottsdale, and it was interesting because the colorations were so different. You know, dealing with the kind of desert brown and these kind of umber shades that are designed to sort of make the house go into the landscape. I come from a place where we kind of want to pop the house and pull it forward. So my innate sense is to not go with all the colors that are around as much as I want to kind of draw the architecture forward. So I think I'm a little bit of an anarchist when it comes to doing desert design, because I just am coming from a very different place. But that's been my only real kind of desert experience, is being involved with that project kind of at an arm's length.
Tell me about Room in a Box. It is so exciting to me. I was visiting the website and I found it very, very easy to use, and I probably am going to buy everything.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that.
Tell me a little bit about it, your inspiration for the idea.
Well, it was really about demystifying the design experience for everyone. I feel like, you know, the design centers are sort of these spooky places that only, you know, an elite, you know, club of people can go into. So I wanted to get to everyone. You know, I wanted to create a design service that would get out there into the world of people that would probably not have the resources necessarily to hire a designer, or some that have the resources but really didn't want that type of relationship with the designer, that maybe they wanted to take more ownership of the design. So imagine sitting in a room with me and saying, you know, well, I really don't like that table, I'd like to substitute this table. Well, designers are like, what do you mean? We're using that table. But so some people, if you created the blueprint or the design for them, then they can value engineer that piece. They don't have to be modest about if they don't want to spend as much on something as something maybe a designer would specify because of their resources. So it allows the end user to be able to value engineer without shame, and also be able to take ownership if they want to alternate that piece out for something that they happen to really love that they've seen in their travels. They should certainly be able to do that. Well, a conventional designer relationship doesn't really promote that in the same way as giving someone the blueprint and all your specifications and then saying, God bless you, now run with it. You know, they can either elect to click through to exact specification, or they can decide to value engineer the various pieces along the way. So it just kind of it was a solution to a problem. And the problem was that more and more people want great design, but more and more people also want a less conventional methodology to get there.
What's the next big thing for Windsor Smith?
Well, the next big thing is spring 2015, which seems so far away, but it's really not far at all. I'll be launching a beautiful line of lighting and accessories and small furniture pieces for our Terriers home. Very excited about that. And also I have a book coming out with Rizzoli, 2015 spring. So it's going to be a big spring for me. High Point will be a very big event for me next year.
Wonderful. Anything else you'd like to share?
Just www.wsroominabox.com.
Fabulous. That's all that I have
Thank
today.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So